the converted man here. So, I want to take a look at this clip from the presidential debate. The topic is C19. And this is just a small clip for the whole debate. I'm not going to analyze the whole debate. That would take way too long. Now, I already did a review on my blog on this particular clip. But I wanted to flesh out some of that and go over what I see the problems are with these debates in general, and specifically this one. How could it have been different or handled better, perhaps? So we have this question asked by the moderator, and the question is rather loaded. It's an incoherent, malformed, loaded question, and so I would object to it on those grounds alone. It's asking the participants to engage in an erratic dialogue with each other, and I really think that that's almost what all these presidential debates kind of boil down to, is just who can sling the most mud at the other person. And it shouldn't be that. It should be what the facts are. What did you do? This, and this. Okay, what are you going to do? Well, okay, then that's more subjective of promises that, you could make or whatever. But if the goal of this dialogue is to win over the audience one way or the other, the method is an odd one to choose of erratic dialogue, where you're throwing words at each other in effort to topple the other person down. The question is framed such so that's what they must do, and then they proceed to do that. So the question is, based on what you have said and done so far, and what you would do starting in 2021, why should the American people trust you rather than the opponent? So I don't know what you said you would do or what you would do. I mean, like, it's kind of, why didn't he phrase it better? But rather than asking something rather subjective, like, why should we trust you? You could have asked, like, what things did you do about C19? Or what do you think went wrong? What do you think you didn't do well enough? And focus only on that instead of attacking your opponent. That way I can see the merits that you bring to the table, especially for Biden, because he's fighting this uphill battle. And that's the position usually against the incumbent, is it's an uphill battle because they have the seat of power. So, it's that's just how it's been traditionally. I think that he, in engaging in this way, based on what you've said, what you've done, starting in the next year, why should anyone trust you rather than your opponent? Okay. Rather than that, what did you do? What do you plan to do? And forget about your opponent. You talk about yourself. That way you're promoting yourself and your ideas. So even if this question flies, and for whatever reason it did, I flirted with the idea of running, but nobody would vote for me. Plus, I don't even know how you would begin to do that. I mean, it's like, how do you run for? I didn't even know how to run for mayor, let alone president. So, and they dig up my past and be like, oh, what about this? And the time you said nigger on your channel. I'm like, damn right I said nigger on my channel, and I'm an atheist. I would not get any votes. They would tear me apart. And they'd probably find things that I forgot about. Like, oh, remember when you did that? Oh, no, that didn't happen. That wasn't me. That was a... But at any rate, so let's say that's what was asked. Now, you should object to the question and say, okay, rather than telling you why they should trust me, because that's subjective. I'm going to tell you what I did before, during, and during this crisis of C19. I spoke about blah, blah, blah. I was made aware of yada, yada, and I talked to the press. I did this, I did that, whatever it is. Now, obviously, Biden has less influence politically to some degree. I'm not sure what he can do in his position versus what the president could do in his position. Like, these men don't have unlimited power; they have limited power sets. So, okay, you've been made aware of this virus. Go back to before we know anything about C19. It's just you get a phone call. China's having this weird thing go down. Okay, the World Health Organization says this. Probably some aide tells you about it because they're the ones that actually got the call. You have like 1,000 other things that you're dealing with. Goodness knows what. You go, okay, well, let's see what they have to say. We have some ambassadors. Go send them, see what they have to say, whatever. And maybe we'll just rely upon their leadership to tell us what's going on. But China, dude, you can't trust China. Yeah, but I mean, come on, this is health. They're not going to mess with health. Maybe you believe that, right? And so maybe you could say, hey, that's what I did. Yeah, I'll take the hit for that because I believe that they wouldn't lie during a health crisis. Sure, they might lie for other political things, but I didn't think that they'd lie about this, right? So whatever it is you did or you didn't do, and just be honest about it. But being honest about it, that's not politics, so that's not what's going to happen. What? Okay, so anyway, why could you trust me? I set up the task force in record time, or I don't know. I can't answer that. How are you supposed to answer that question? Why they should trust you? Like, and so they don't answer this question even a little bit. Okay, I want to make that really clear. No matter what you think of these guys, and I know there's a lot of feelings about either side, not caring about that and focusing solely and only on the argument at hand that's in front of me. Why? What is the question? How can you answer that? They don't answer this question, which is they shouldn't have to answer because it's loaded and malformed, but they also don't even try to answer it. So why should I trust you? Give me some reasons. Like, well, I did this, this, and this, right? That would be something. And they kind of brush against that a little bit, and they seem to throw some shade at the other one, but ultimately, I just see it as an erratic dialogue, and because of that, the analysis of it is extraordinarily subjective. Okay, so yeah, he asked this question.
Why, based on what you have said and done so far, and what you have said you would do starting in 2021, why should the American people trust you more than your opponent to deal with this public health crisis going forward? In this case, the question goes to you first, sir. 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Good luck. 200,000 dead. As you said, over 7 million infected in the United States. We, in fact, have 5%, 4% of the world's population, 20% of the deaths.
Okay. So here's the first misstep, I think. The numbers, whatever they are, okay, that's what's going on. That's the situation. We all know that. Okay. That doesn't even begin to address the question. Why should I trust you over him? So what about all those deaths? Are those the result of what he did? Then say that. Do what, at least attempt to answer the question.
40,000 people a day are contracting COVID. In addition to that, about between 750 and 1,000 people a day are dying. When he was presented with that number, he said, it is what it is.
Okay, now I talk about this in my blog post again. Now, please feel free to disagree with my conclusion because it's very subjective. It's highly, extraordinarily subjective. This is an erratic dialogue. It's almost, maybe it's impossible to analyze using informal logic, but I tried. But at any rate, okay, the fact that your opponent, or if it is a fact, I'm going to tentatively grant that whatever is said by both people is facts, even if it contradicts with each other, just because there are no citations, which is another thing that drives me nuts about these debates. Like, these things you should have to have proof that this is true, that you can, here, show slide 1. That shows that this is true. You rather than just saying things and requiring your audience to fact check you, or requiring the media or whoever to fact check you. I don't know if Trump said this. I have no idea. But let's just grant that he did. At worst, that means he's a cold-hearted son of a gun. But that doesn't tell me why I shouldn't trust him. He's like, yeah, it is what it is. It sucks. I mean, what are you going to do about it? And it's like, okay, that's just, what he said. Okay, that doesn't really shift the distrust to him in any way that I can ferret out. So you missed an opportunity there that you could have had to do what you're doing, which is trying to knock down your opponent using words. Just, yeah.
Well, it is what it is because you are who you are. That's why it is. The president has...
Now, wait a minute. It is because of who you are. So he's blaming, the numbers on the opponent? Like, that doesn't really make sense. We don't know if the numbers would have been different if you were in charge or anything like that. But you could have just said it crystal clear, like, how many people, this is all your fault. Just say it like that, just be more clear, Chris, to the point. This is your fault. Like, it would have been less under my jurisdiction or my domain. That would have worked. And say, look, all these deaths, they're on you. You screwed up. Your administration screwed up. I was saying that we should do X, Y, and Z. But he didn't do that. What are you going to do? Okay.
Has no plan. He hasn't laid out anything. He knew all the way back in February how serious this crisis was. He knew it was a deadly disease. What did he do? He's on tape as acknowledging he knew it. He said he didn't tell us or give people a warning of it because he didn't want to panic the American people.
Okay. So you've actually given your opponent a good thing in a way, depending on how people look at this. And I try to look at it critically, so I might be looking at it different than others because who you want to vote for is probably already decided anyway. So the debate really is just, sit there with popcorn, seeing how, your guy knocks down the other guy and laughing or whatever, right? I don't know if this convinces anybody because it's not within the realm purely of a logical argument where there would be a syllogism to ferret out. Neither of these people give a valid or sound argument. You can't. It's erratic. That type of dialogue, there isn't usually logic within that type of dialogue already. So the question was set up to be an erratic dialogue, and they accepted the question and pursued it. So that's why we're here. But okay, what was I complaining about? Because I complained about that already. What was he saying?
What did he do? He's on tape as acknowledging he knew it.
Okay, right. So the panic. Okay. Not telling the public, because the public could panic. Hey, look, found out about this thing. Like, about it, but how much information do you know about it? Because I don't know that. You could have ferried that said he knew all there was to know about it, and he didn't release that information. And he didn't release, and you leave it there. Don't, okay, honesty, I would love for both people to be honest, but then by including that he did it because he didn't want people to panic, it's like, well, now you're giving your opponent something good that they did. Like, that's a good motive. Like, oh, yeah, hey, I messed up. Look, I didn't want people to panic, so I didn't say anything about it. But that doesn't mean necessarily anything because they could have been doing stuff behind the scenes, even though they didn't tell us, right? I don't know. So unless it's not only did you not tell anybody, but you didn't do anything about it, then that's different, right? Because just not telling people, I can understand. People might panic. You don't want people to panic. You, especially if you don't know anything about it. It's like, well, let's find out more information about it. We'll lock down some stuff. We'll shut down some flights, and we'll figure out what this is, and then we'll release it once we know what it is. That way, we can give the public the information in full, so we don't cause a panic, right? So you screwed up here. You should have like just thrown him under the bus in every way possible, since that's apparently what the goal of this particular dialogue is. Okay, it's very hard to analyze objectively because there's just, you know, throwing the attempt here is to knock the opponent down with words, and it's very hard to do that in the first place. And I see this as a negative towards that goal. You screwed up. You gave your opponent something possibly positive. Okay, you could look at it as a mistake, sure, but it's good that he didn't want to panic people. That's a good thing. That's a reason to trust the person, not distrust them. Like, so, yeah, unless I guess you could try to argue the other way. I'm not sure how that would work, but again, there's this.
He didn't tell us or give people a warning of it because he didn't want to panic the American people. Mm-hmm. You don't panic. He panicked. In addition to that,
now, okay, that's a funny insult. I mean, I gotta say, I give credit where credit's due. It's like, you don't panic, he panicked. Say what you will about the guy. I've never seen him panic. I just don't believe that he would panic, even in private. He just doesn't seem like that kind of guy. So it's a good insult, but it just kind of like bounces off this particular individual, given what we know about this guy. He isn't the sort of type to panic. Like, yeah, I just don't see that, like, at all. So, good try, but swing and a miss. But again, it's subjective, and I hate that.
What did he do? He went in and we were insisting that the Chinese, the people we had on the ground in China should be able to go to Wuhan and determine for themselves how dangerous this was. He did not even ask Xi to do that. He told us what a great job Xi was doing. He said we owe him a debt of gratitude for being so transparent with us. And what did he do then? He then did nothing. He waited and waited and waited. He still doesn't have a plan. Whoa. I laid out back in March.
I love, okay. The moderator sucks. Okay. I don't know. What's the name of the moderator? Oh, geez. I don't know. Whatever. He sucks. Okay. He sucks as a moderator because he should turn off the president's microphone. I don't think that would stop him from talking because he's just that kind of guy. But he's like, wrong. But I've done this. So I'm just, maybe I should be president or run because I've done the same sort of thing. But the stakes are so high here that you gotta, look, mute yourself, okay? Just mute yourself because it's not your turn, and you shouldn't be saying wrong of your opponent, even though you think it's wrong or whatever. But I just find it funny that the moderator's doing nothing.
Exactly what we should be doing. And I laid out again in July what we should be doing. We should be providing all the protective gear possible. We should be providing the money the House has passed in order to be able to go out and get people the help they need to keep their businesses open schools.
Okay, that's all things we should have done. Did you recommend any of those actions? Again, so if he did, or if he wants to claim that he did, either way, then do that. This is your opportunity to do that. Like, I wanted us to do X, Y, and Z, and I said that, and I wrote it down, and I told the press, or I tweeted it, or whatever you did, but it doesn't seem like you actually did any of those things. It's great to say we should have done this, and we could do this, and I want us to do this. I don't know how much of that we're doing, or whatever, but take that opportunity to throw more stuff about yourself out there. Whether it's true or not doesn't really seem to matter because we're not doing any fact checking during the debate. yeah, people will later, but so what? Who cares, right? I mean, the whole point of this is knock down your opponent. So just say, I wanted us to do this and we didn't do it. But he doesn't say that. So, okay.
It cost a lot of money. You should get out of your bunker and get out of the sand trap and get in your golf course and go in the Oval Office and bring together the Democrats and Republicans and fund what needs to be done now to save lives.
So if we would have listened to you.
You have 2 minutes, sir.
If we would have listened to you, the country would have been left wide open. Millions of people would have died, not 200,000. And one person is too much. It's China's fault. It should have never happened. They stopped it from going in, but it was China's fault. And by the way, when you talk about numbers, you don't know how many people died in China.
Okay. Say what you will about the guy. I'm sure people hate him. I know that, But when it comes to erratic dialogue, you got to give him credit for knowing how to do it. I mean, if you're going to try to insult somebody and break them down, this sort of thing, this sort of technique is pretty high. It's not top notch. I mean, I think I could do better, but it's pretty dang good, I think. But again, that's very subjective. You might, whatever, But so he threw his opponent under the bus right there. He's like, the reason. So I would have said it. The reason why the American public shouldn't trust you is because if I had listened to you, we would not have closed our borders when we did. You wanted to keep them open. You said to keep them open. And then, of course, again, because I want the facts there, I would have had slides to show that that's actually what he said, rather than relying on people to fact check it themselves, because that's a lot of homework. I'm sure some channel is going to do it. That channel is not going to be me. I'm just trying to analyze this as best as I can. And I don't know. Hopefully you'll find that interesting to some degree. Like I said, it's extraordinarily difficult, if not impossible, to actually analyze this. So anyways, whatever, back to the thing.
You don't know how many people died in Russia. You don't know how many people died in India. They don't exactly give you a straight count, just so you understand. But if you look at what we've done, I closed it and you said he's xenophobic. He's a racist and he's xenophobic because you didn't think I should have closed our country. Wait a minute.
It's his 2 minutes.
You didn't think we should have closed our country because you thought it was terrible. You wouldn't have closed it for another 2 months. By my doing it early, in fact, Dr. Fauci said, President Trump saved thousands of lives. Many of your Democrat governors said, President Trump did a phenomenal job. We worked.
Okay. Now, of course, I have to point out the logical fallacies. Appealing to others and appealing to unnamed people that might agree with your side should not be in a debate proper. This is something that you would see in an essay, but not in a proper debate. But this isn't a proper debate. It's just called a debate. Technically, yes, all types of communication are dialogues, and all dialogues can be viewed as debate. So under that extraordinary technical definition, this is a debate. But within logical structure, this isn't really a debate. This is who can one up the other by making claims about their side. And that's all we have here is empty assertions. There's plenty of logical fallacies, don't get me wrong. These are empty assertions, unproven arguments. There's zero citations. There's ad hominem. There's, half truths. Goodness knows how many outright lies, and just so all of that has to be ignored because we already agree that we're doing erratic dialogue. So it's like, who cares about the fallacies? Okay, I do know that the press, now I think it's more true that the press did say things like, well, Trump's xenophobic or whatever. I remember seeing something like that, if not that exactly, and maybe he's banking on that, is that because our memories are what they are, is that you or I or whoever will remember, that somebody did say that about you, and maybe it was this guy, and so, you closing the borders, that was the right thing to do. Period. Whether you like, you can call it xenophobic all you want, but that's the right thing to do, is close everything down. Now, maybe his opponent said, you didn't close it down quickly enough. That would have been a good rebuttal, but he didn't do that. Yeah, I don't know. Look, I spell things however wrong. I'll fix the spelling later, maybe. Okay, it's just I don't know. I don't care anymore how things are spelled. It doesn't matter. Anyways, back to this. Almost done. It's not that long of a clip.
With the governor. Oh, really? Go take a look. The governor said I did a phenomenal job. Most of them said that.
That's
In
irrelevant.
fact, people that would not be necessarily on my side said that. President Trump did a phenomenal job. We did. We got the gowns. We got the masks. We made the ventilators. You wouldn't have made ventilators. And now we're weeks away from a vaccine. We're doing therapeutics already. Fewer people are dying when they get sick. Far fewer people are dying. We've done a great job. The only thing I haven't done a good job, and that's because of the fake news. No matter what you say to them, they give you bad press on it. It's just fake news. They give you good press. They give me bad press.
So throwing your opponent under the bus and then throwing the press under the bus, it's like a double whammy. It's like, yeah, screw them and screw you while I'm at it. Now, it is the case, whether you like it or not, that yes, news has become, well, maybe it's always been, but maybe now we're just realizing that journalism is not, there is no integrity in it anymore, or maybe there never was. That they're desperate for the clicks, they're desperate for the views, they're desperate. If you have a 24-hour news network, you have to fill it with content, and that you have the Fox and you have the CNN, and they're both echo chambers, and that there is something wrong with that. That's not what they shouldn't call themselves news because of that. Maybe they should call themselves something else, but not call themselves news. And news is reporting what's going on globally, or what's going on in the country, or what's going on locally. This good thing happened, this bad thing happened, whatever. There's the news, right? Of course, they don't cover the good things because they know that bad stuff sells, and so that's all they do. And then they got, at some point, maybe not the individuals, but the corporation got like desperate for money, and then the individuals, their ideals maybe crumbled away. Maybe the good ones that are out there got lost in the shuffle, and now they're hiring only people that will sell the clickbait stuff, because especially with YouTube and everything like this, old media feels like it's dying out, and they're afraid. They don't know how to change, and they don't want to change, and so they're becoming rather desperate. So yeah, fake news is a thing, whether you like it or not. Whether it's being used on him or not, that's up to you to determine and decide and decipher. It's good to be a skeptic. Just be skeptical about all the things that you hear from all the things at all times. Anyways, but so this is kind of, like I said, a double whammy. So for counting points of who's knocking down who the best with words, so far, my subjective view is this guy right here has knocked down his opponent more times than his opponent has knocked him down. But we're not done. We're not done. He could recover. He doesn't, because I already wrote my blog post. So I already have I already have the conclusion. But at any rate, we'll cover it anyways, because this might be more fun. Listening to me complain about this might be more fun than just you reading. Me reading about it. That's not, no, you reading about me that wrote
because that's the way it is, unfortunately. But let me just tell you something. I don't care. I've gotten used to it. But I'll tell you, Joe, you could never have done the job that we did. You don't have it in your blood. You could have never done that job.
Ouch.
I know how to do the job. I know how to get the job
Well, you
done.
didn't do very well in swine flu. H1N1. You were a disaster. Your own chief of staff said you were a disaster.
Oh, man. Oh man, dig up that path. So you didn't do good this time, and whether it's true or not doesn't matter again, because none of this matters if it's true or not. So it's like, yeah, remember this? When you were in charge and had power, you screwed that up. Bam! Oh, now the moderators. Well, I guess the moderator shouldn't have allowed that because it's a tangent. So it's a red herring to the topic. It is related to the topic, but it is not the topic at hand. The topic at hand is supposed to be C19, not the swine flu, right? But the moderator is just letting everything go because whatever at this point, you're not controlling anything. So, this is just pure entertainment. This is just people, they're not yelling, but they might as well be yelling at each other. There isn't anything of substance here. And so I guess the best you could do is just go, yeah, they said a thing, woo, and that's really all I'm doing, I guess. But I'm also complaining about the lack of logic on display here. I would love for this to be, here is my argument. Why can't I have that here? Why can't you say, look, the reason why the American people shouldn't trust you is because you screwed up in regards to the swine flu. There you go. That's better. At least that's on topic, sort of. But, I don't know. Whatever.
14,000 people died, not 200,000. There was
okay. Now that's not a good rebuttal. Like, less people died. Yeah. Okay. Sure. But that's not relevant because if you did bad during that time and you could have done better, then that's still a point against you. So you have to say, well, it would have been more had I not been there to do blah, blah, blah. So that you got to rebuttal the actual attack, even though this is an erratic dialogue, but you still need to deflect that attack back and be like, yeah, don't worry about the numbers. Of course, the numbers are different. It's like, yeah, well, the explosion killed more people this time than the last explosion. The explosion that you were in charge of. Right, yeah. But it's like, well, you could have prevented more, but you didn't. Well, but it was different. I mean, less people died. So people still died. It's like, look, give us reasons why we should trust you. If you didn't do as well in that explosion as you could have, which is what is being suggested here by the president, then give us reasons to think that situation is completely not just different in terms of numbers, but different in terms of what you did about it.
No economic recession.
Sir, you made a
there was no recession.
You made a point. Let him answer.
And there was we didn't shut down the economy. This is his economy he shut down. The reason it's shut down is because, look, you folks at home, how many of you got up this morning and had an empty chair at the kitchen table?
Wait a minute. Okay, so now I view this as a structural problem. You started to make a point. The reason that the economy is shut down, that's his fault. And the reason is, here's a new topic now. Picture how many people are dead that basically. So now it's an appeal to emotion. It's pure appeal to emotion, which is all it's been throughout. That's all this really is appeals to emotion anyways. So you didn't finish that thought. So that makes you look bad. So you should the reason why the economy is shut down is because there's so many people that are dead that wouldn't have been dead had I been president or something like that.
Because someone died of COVID. How many of you were in a situation where you lost your mom or dad and you couldn't even speak to them? You had a nurse holding a phone up so you could, in fact, say goodbye.
You would have lost far more people. Far more people.
And
you would have been.
And by the way, his own CDC director says we could lose as many as another 200,000 people between now and the end of the year. And he held up. He said, if we just wear a mask, we can save half those numbers. Just a mask. And by the way, in terms of the whole notion of a vaccine, we're for a vaccine, but I don't trust him at all, nor do you. I know you don't. What we trust is a science.
Okay, don't tell me what I know. I hate that, no matter what type of dialogue. But it would be an effective tool in erratic dialogue to claim what the other person knows, perhaps, because that might upset them and thus throw them off further. But he said that of the audience. Don't tell the audience what they know. That's a bad move. Do it to your opponent, but don't tell the audience that you know whatever is true or whatever. That's just a bad move. Even if it's going to be in your favor, it's just not a good idea, tactically speaking, because people don't like being told you know that you know or you don't know X, even if they actually agree with you. And maybe plenty of people, I'm sure, do agree with what Joe's saying, but you still, at some level, probably don't like being told that you think X. Maybe you're fine with it in this case. Again, this is kind of a bit of a, well, it's all, the whole damn thing's subjective anyways, but whatever.
We're for a vaccine, but I don't trust him at all, nor do you. I know you don't. Well,
yeah, I know you don't. No, you don't. You know that you don't. Leave it at that. Okay.
Trust is a scientist.
You don't
we
trust
Dr.
Johnson
Fauci.
Johnson, Pfizer?
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Gentlemen, let me move on.
Okay, that's the end of the clip. Okay, so yeah, like, we don't trust you, which is actually trying to answer the question of we, the American people, shouldn't trust you, not we don't trust you, because then the answer to the question is already there. We already don't trust you, which you could have said. That could have been an attack strategy to say the question is answered. Plenty of people don't trust him, and here's why, blah, 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 whatever, right? Lead with that. Go on the offensive, since that's what the whole point, I guess, of this. That's what's really weird for this, is because, okay, in the erratic dialogue, which is what we're engaging in, what we looked at here, the method is to knock down your opponent verbally. That's the method. The goal is to reveal the deeper basis of the conflict. Well, we know what the goal is, or we know what the deeper basis of the conflict is both of these men want to be in charge. One wants to stay in charge, the other wants to get in charge, right? They want more power than they currently have. But in this case, I would dare say that the goal is identical to the method, that the knocking down of the opponent has become the goal in this case. And so it's an erratic dialogue where the goal and method is the same. And so good luck with that, because there's nothing to get to the bottom of. There's nothing to get to the core of. Just the point is, I'm going to knock you down with words. You're going to try to knock me down with words. And then the only people that can judge if that's successful, well, actually, nobody can, because it's solely subjective. It's just who you think, it's like a diss fight, right? It's like, let's diss each other. Let's, burn, insult each other. And the goal is, whoever's around is like, oh, and the screams are louder. Who won? And it's just a contest of who thinks whoever, dissed the other person more. Like, and it's wholly, completely subjective. There's nothing that can be done with this, and that's frustrating. So why bother? I guess that's a good question. Why bother trying to apply informal logic where it might not belong? And my response is, I love doing logic, so it's not going to stop me just because this type of dialogue might be immune to it. Maybe it is crazy to try, but I still am going to try with all the try I can. But my conclusion thus far from this single clip alone, I didn't look at anything before or after, but just from what I saw here, that if the measure is who threw out the most words to knock down their opponent, if that is what we're using to measure who, quote, wins, end quote, then I think the president won on that merit alone. Having said that, neither one technically won, because there's all sorts of logical fallacies, so we should be skeptical of both of their conclusions, so we shouldn't trust either of them because they never gave us a reason why to do that. Neither one of them ever really actually said anything of substance to that exact question. It came close, but not, it wasn't, and again, it's because the question is malformed, but within that malformed question, of course, you should have fixed the question. You should have objected to the question. But even within that, you still didn't really, you're like kind of hinting at, like, I didn't do this, you didn't do that. And so it's kind of there, but it's like, I don't know. I can't exactly describe it. It's like, I want more. And I think the more that I want is that objective, critical standard. This X is true. We can't, and this is not up for debate. This is what happened for real. And leave the subjectiveness out of it. This is how I would love all presidential debates, any debate moving forward. We should demand that the participants come in with their arguments ready to go. And the argument should stand or fail on its own. But for something like this, that's supposedly super duper important, we should expect an even higher level. So it's like, okay, have all your things fact checked and have those on slides. And not just fact checked by your team, but also by a neutral team and the opposing team. And maybe that means they get to know the questions coming in. I don't know. But regardless, it's got to be better than this, because this doesn't, I don't think that this helps anyone to decide anything. I don't see how, because if you can't apply a system like logic to this, then what do you walk away with? You walk away with what you came in with. If you're already going to vote for one of these nitwits, you're still going to vote for that nitwit. If you were undecided, this doesn't help you decide in any logically meaningful way. So what was the point of all of it? Other than entertainment. I mean, that in itself can be a point, but that doesn't give us anything as people who must cast a ballot that gives plus 1 point in an insignificantly futile gesture, it almost seems like, but still we're told go out and vote, because it does kind of maybe matter on some nebulous level, and it's really hard to see how it matters because your vote is buried among all the other ones, right? But yeah, so it's weird. So we're, I've heard many people say, think before you vote, and you should vote. It's your civic duty, or whatever. Yeah, you should research. And what I would say, what I've seen about this whole presidential term, this whole 4 years, has been a lot of emotion subtracted from fact. And so I would implore all of us, myself included, forget about what the guy said. Okay, because I know he said stupid stuff. I know the president said just stupid stuff they shouldn't say or shouldn't tweet or whatever. But that's one thing. What has he done or not done? That might matter more. And I would argue it should matter more. What someone says, anyone can say anything, right? It's what they do that ultimately matters. Now, I know a lot of people want like a leader who they can be proud of, but would you? So here's a thought experiment. Let's say you could have a leader that you're proud of, but they have zero ability to govern. Or you can have somebody that's really good at governing, but they have zero ability to be a good leader. Like in the sense of that they look like a good leader. Obviously, they are a good leader if they're, doing what they're doing and it's working. But they're uncharismatic, in other words. Okay, so your choice is between a charismatic person who doesn't do governing at all and a non-charismatic person that does governing perfectly. If that's the choice, which choice would you make and why? And so by placing those extremes out there, you can then measure these people and go, okay, well, who is more into one of those categories than the other based on what they have or have not done. And you can look at those actions objectively because those are actions are on the record. digging out those records is a time-consuming task that many people just don't have the energy for. So we have to rely on the YouTubers out there that are more into politics than I am, for example, to dig into this and do that research. So listen to people on the right, listen to people on the left, and between those two extremes somewhere is going to be the truth hidden under all the minutia. And it's unfortunately, ultimately, and happily up to us to sort through all of that with the best critical reasoning that we have to get to the truth. And even if the truth is something you don't like, that's what you got to go with. And if you truly, and we got to make it not about feelings, but about those facts. Having said all that, I know that even people will still go and vote with their hearts and not with their heads. And that saddens me as a skeptic. But what can you do? It's what it is. So, you know, you guys or gals are having your own little side chat as normal. I kind of do agree with that Biden's really just a placeholder for Kamala. Probably, I don't know. I think, I'm not really. That's not what any of this is about. This is just about how dialect works or doesn't work, how debate works or doesn't work, and some thoughts on what we could do to improve it. And I think the main thing would be to actually make it a legitimate debate in the first place. Have it be about the facts and not about feelings. Not why should we trust you? Because that's nebulous. That's not something you can verify with facts. That's subjective. Have it be, what did you do? What could you have done? What did you mess up on? Ask them something like that. Let's see how honest they are. Yeah, I screwed this up. Okay. Hey, it takes a big person to say that. It takes a lot of courage to admit that. And so I don't know. But I'm not in charge of setting up these debates. I don't know who is. So I don't know how to change things. And maybe that's ultimately the problem of all of this, is that maybe none of us knows how to change a damn thing. So all we can do is complain about it and put it on YouTube. Okay, anyways, we will debate religious things at some other time. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Hopefully you got some thoughts from this. I don't know. I wrote my blog on this. Tell me I'm wrong if you want, because again, it's completely subjective. So I am wrong, but also I'm right, because logic fail, and even though I'm talking about politics, this isn't really about politics. It's about logic and arguments and all that. So, and we'll watch and enjoy the derailment of the comment section that's sure to happen. Thanks for watching. Goodbye, everybody. I'm hitting the thing. All right, off to bed. Go to bed, everybody. Subscribe to who's a shout out? Describe. You know what? I can't say anything, so I'm just quitting now. Subscribe to everybody. Screw it. Whatever.